Welcome to Good Screenwriting. I'm Trevor Meyer, and today we're going to talk about the Avengers versus Justice League. Is this some awesome superhero mashup movie? No! This is a comparison between the movie The Avengers and Justice League. Now, I want to keep this video relatively short, so we're not going to go through the entire film in each case, comparing casting and writing and directing and all that. But rather one specific aspect that I think really made the difference between the two. And it came from watching Justice League with my wife recently. And I've seen this movie twice. Seen The Avengers a lot more than that. But there was a time when I was watching The Avengers with my dad. And there's the part at the end where, the Hulk is the last person to show up in the last battle. And when the Hulk shows up, the Avengers are assembled. And the same thing kind of happens in Justice League. When Superman shows up, spoilers, this whole video is going to be spoilers because we're talking about the ending of the movie. When Superman shows up at the end of Justice League, he's sort of the last Avenger, if you will. He's the last one to join up in the fight. And he's the last one, and once he joins the team, they're assembled, it's the official Justice League, and they can finish the final battle. Now, here's the difference. When I was watching Justice League with my wife, Superman shows up, he punches Steppenwolf in the face, they separate the cubes, and they destroy Steppenwolf's axe. And then the parademons attack Steppenwolf, and he gets sucked up into the sky through the portal. And this all happens in a period of about 2 or 3 minutes after Superman shows up. And as soon as that happens, my wife said, "Well, that was easy." Okay? Flashback to watching The Avengers with my dad. When Bruce Banner says, "I'm always angry," and turns into the Hulk, punches the Leviathan in the face. Iron Man launches his rockets. We get the whole Avengers circle thing where the camera goes around them. They play the Avengers theme, and they're all assembled. And after the Hulk punched the Leviathan in the face and it crashes down, my dad said, "Well, that was easy." Then Loki said, "Send the rest." And the rest of his alien army comes through the portal, and my dad said, "Oh, crap." And then they proceed to have a 20-minute battle even after the Avengers are all assembled. Here's the difference. The conflict in the Avengers was well balanced. In other words, and this is a really nerdy thing to say here, so bear with me if you're not a gamer like I am. And I don't even mean video gamer, all right? This is nerdier than that. I'm talking like pen and paper role-playing games, like Dungeons and Dragons, all right? And not necessarily Dungeons and Dragons, but something like that, where you want to create balanced encounters between your heroes and their adversaries. So if you create a challenge that's too easy, then the heroes just mow over their enemies. If you create a challenge that's too hard, there's a good chance that a few of the heroes are going to bite the dust. All right? So you want to create a well-balanced encounter, usually. And the same could be said in video games. I mean, they have difficulty settings in video games, or at least they used to. I'm an old-timer. They used to have an easy, medium, and hard setting on video games, where if you want to mow through enemies, you can set it to easy. If you want to die every 5 minutes, then you can set it to difficult. But the most satisfying is usually the center, which is medium difficulty, which is you're roughly on par with your villains, all right? And maybe just a little more powerful because you want to win in the end, but you want a challenge too. So the difference is when the Hulk shows up, that's not the end of the fight. Now the Avengers have their team, they have their party, if you will. They're all lined up, they're ready to go, and the villains have an equally powerful force to oppose them. Okay? So you have a wide range of powers with the Avengers. The weakest probably is Hawkeye, I think, because even in a fight between Hawkeye and Black Widow wins. So I think, and Hawkeye has a bow and arrow. Black Widow has guns. I think Black Widow is more powerful. All right. So Hawkeye being the weakest of the Avengers, the Hulk being way more powerful. But with the range of enemies you get, yes, you get these flying leviathans. You get the guys on little flying jet skis, and then you got the ground troops. The kind of alien putties, if you will. And this is a nice wide range of conflict where the heroes seem to be outnumbered, seem to be overwhelmed, and yet their forces are roughly equal, in that the heroes are eventually able to prevail. Justice League, on the other hand, once Superman shows up, the heroes are way more powerful than the villains, and that's the problem. As soon as Superman shows up, the fight's over, and you could say, well, yeah, of course, he's Superman. But that's not what happened with the Hulk. When the Hulk shows up, they're not like, well, of course the Avengers win in 2 minutes. The Hulk showed up. No, you bring in more adversaries so that you can still have a strong conflict at the end. You could even draw the comparison with Age of Ultron. Before the end battle even starts, they create the Vision. And Vision is more powerful than all the other Avengers combined. He's very much like Superman. But when they create him, is the fight over 2 minutes later because he's so powerful he can take out Ultron's entire army single-handedly? No, he can't. So it's a problem when Superman just showing up is a resolution in and of itself. That should be the beginning of the fight, not the end of the fight. So, talking about Justice League, there was a studio mandate that the movie be kept under 2 hours. And I totally agree with that. I have no problem with that whatsoever. I've seen videos on, YouTube here where they go through all the things that were cut from Justice League based on the trailers and interviews with actors and all that. I hear all the stuff they cut out of Justice League, and I'm like, I am not sorry at all. That's great. I love it because I didn't want Iris West in the movie. I didn't want Cyborg's mother in the movie. I didn't want Barry Allen's origin story in the movie. I didn't want another 10 minutes of Bruce Wayne riding a horse through the mountains in the movie. Zack Snyder was gearing up to make another 3-hour movie like Batman vs. Superman. Batman vs. Superman never should have been 3 hours long. It was a 2-hour movie. It's Batman vs. Superman. Build it like a Rocky movie, for God's sake. I mean, there was no reason for it to be a 3-hour movie. So, yeah, I'm totally on board with them saying, nope, keep the reins on this one. Keep it tight, keep it focused. Now, that being said, is that the reason why we didn't get a longer fight at the end? I don't think so. I think it's time management. If we only have 2 hours to work with, hands down, if it means giving more action to Superman and the Justice League at the end, I'm sorry, you got to cut out that sequence in Themyscira when Steppenwolf is fighting the Amazons, okay? That's, 5 minutes of wasted screen time? And not wasted, but if you could use it better in the third act with Superman, yeah, do that instead. Because previously I've talked about saving money in the production of movies, but this is one case where it's actually about saving time. It doesn't matter how much the sequence costs, you got to cut down the time. So if that's the case, I would have cut the fight with the Amazons, just have Steppenwolf show up and cut away. And just suggest that he had a bloody battle with the Amazons and won. I mean, he wins anyway, okay? So just have him show up, smile, and cut away. And that would be more horrifying, not seeing what he did. And then it felt like a little too much with... You can still do the fight in Atlantis, but the whole conversation between Aquaman and is it Hera? I don't remember. The female Aquaman who's in the water with them, and they make that bubble and they talk to each other. That felt like part of a different movie. That's Aquaman's movie. We didn't need that. It's a little too much. I think we got his gist from his conversation with Bruce Wayne. We didn't need him to talk to the Atlanteans. That's too much. That didn't belong in the Justice League movie. And look, when you get to the end of the movie, if anything, just have Superman show up sooner, okay? In the final battle. There is a long action sequence with the Justice League. Just have Superman show up a little bit earlier so you can have at least a good 10 minutes of them fighting an unstoppable force. And look, if the force is not unstoppable, the stakes are not high enough, okay? This should be something that is too much for the Justice League to handle, even with Superman. And I'm sorry, if Steppenwolf is not that powerful, you shouldn't have picked Steppenwolf as your villain, okay? I'm really surprised it wasn't Darkseid, but hey, maybe they're saving that for the sequel. You know, one of the things I said before was that the Avengers had at least 3 different levels of villains plus the main villain. So you got Loki, you got the foot soldiers, you got the jet ski aliens, and you got the Leviathans, at least. So there's like an easy, medium, and hard version of these minions. So in Justice League, you have Steppenwolf and the Parademons, and that's it. There's no multi-tiered difficulty level so that, like, say, Batman could be fighting parademons while Superman is fighting something else, way more powerful. I don't know. But have a multi-tiered set of minions under Steppenwolf. Because, look, in the Avengers, Loki was a pushover. I get that. Hulk was able to defeat Loki in about 5 seconds. That's fine. You can take out Steppenwolf in 5 seconds. That's fine. But the battle itself has to be at least somewhat of a challenge for the heroes. So there has to be a point where you feel like they're going to be overwhelmed. I mean, the other thing my wife said was that I never felt like the Justice League was going to lose. Like, there was never any point where I feel like they're not going to do this. Whereas in the Avengers, this is at the bottom of the, when you get right down to it, it's 6 people versus an army. They are the underdogs in that situation, okay? It's 6 people versus an army. So there's a point where, the odds are so against them that you do kind of feel like they're going to lose, There's the part where Captain America gets shot in the stomach with a laser, and you just kind of get the sense that things are not going to go okay for them. But then they rebound, they, launch the nuke into the alien spaceship, and it's good. And Justice League needed that too. Even with Superman, they're going to lose. They're not winning. And the villains just weren't powerful enough. The adversaries were just not strong enough. The conflict wasn't strong enough. And this can apply to any screenplay, okay? You need your villain to be roughly equally powerful to your hero. And all the forces underneath. The enemies have to be as powerful as the allies. Okay? It's got to be an equal conflict. It can't really be a pushover on either end, because if the heroes are too powerful, it's too easy. If the villains are too powerful, then there's really no way for your heroes to win. So the heroes have to have the slight edge, but it's always most exciting when they're about equal strength on each side. So that's what I think. That's one very specific aspect. I could get into all the other things like dialogue, tone, plot, all that stuff. But mainly, I think when you walk away from a movie, it has a lot to do with how the final conflict resolves itself, how you feel about the movie, okay? So when you walk away from the movie, whether or not you feel satisfied has to do a lot with whether or not the final conflict was memorable. And I said before, Loki is one of the strong suits of the Avengers, and Steppenwolf is definitely the biggest weakness of the Justice League. So, they had a lame villain, and he wasn't up to the task of fighting the Justice League. So, it was a little too easy, too much of a pushover. That's why it didn't have the impact that it needed in the end. Okay? So, what do you think? What other ways do these films compare with each other? Let me know in the comments section below. This is Good Screenwriting, and I'm Trevor Meyer. See you next time.